Check out my sweet Movember stash. Support men's mental health. Today I'm starting off on a journey where I'm going to be having a bit of a spin on my classic sauerkraut recipe. You can check out that recipe on the channel if you like. But what I'm doing today, this spin, or rather a hard left turn, to start off with, I'm going with red cabbage, not green. I really like the color and how it looks in the finished product. I'm going to go with a whole bunch of garlic and then a whack load of some hot red Thai chilies here. So yeah, let's get sour. Step one is just to peel off some of these outer leaves here going around it, just because we're going to want to reserve these for the top of the fermentation. The largest, scariest knife that you own. I just like this one because it's relatively flat and it's large enough to get through the cabbage all in one little chopperoo here. And I'm going to cut it in half initially here, just like that. There's one tough cabbage. And then I'm going to cut it into quarters, just like so. And once it's like that, I'm going to take this slightly smaller knife just because it makes life a little bit easier. And I want to remove this core here, just like that. So I'm going to do this to all 4 pieces. Now, once you have them quartered here, you could go ahead and just, as most people probably would, just give it a nice little chop like so, slice it up, make a bunch of pieces in whatever size you like. I, however, am going to cheat. And the way I'm going to do that is with this sweet Salad Master unit here. It's just a hand crank, horizontal mandolin kind of setup here, and it's going to chop these up really quite nicely. So now what I'm doing is I've taken one of those quarters and I just cut it into relative thirds, and I'm just running it through here. You can buy different Salad Masters online. I actually have links to a few of them that I like at different price points in Amazon in the video description. Ooh, that Salad Master really made quick work of this. This is also about that point in the video where I start to get worried that I might be flying a little too close to the sun, just with the sheer volume here. That was a 7¼ pound cabbage initially, which is quite large for the size of fermentation vessel I plan on using, whereas around that like 3.34 kilogram if you're using metric. So there we go. I'm gonna set this aside here for a sec, just so we can deal with the other veg. So I have 100 grams of peeled garlic here, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the little ends there. So now that all of those are off, I'm just going to give this a quick chop here. I want the garlic to be at least as small as the pieces of cabbage, so I'm just going to go ahead and bust them up. And with my garlic cut, it is time to deal with the 100 grams also of these Thai chilies. So first of all, I'm just going to cut off all the stems. All right, all of the stems are off. Now, I should mention that before I peeled the initial leaves off of the cabbage, I rinsed that. I also rinsed off the peppers and the garlic prior to doing anything with them. Now, I'm going to give these just a rough chop. Again, I don't want them. I just lost a piece of pepper off the edge of my counter. Let's see if the cat finds that before I do. I'm going to just chop these up. All right, there we go. Let's get that into the cabbage. So with all my garlic, my Thai chilies, and my cabbage in this meat lug, which is a really handy way to mix all of this, I'm going to be adding my salt. Now for this much cabbage, I'm going to add 2½ tablespoons of pickling salt. You want a non-iodized salt for this, just because that allows for easier bacterial activity. The iodized salts are certainly not as conducive to a proper natural fermentation. Now, here we go, the laborious process of mixing. I'm just mixing and squeezing and trying to massage in that salt as much as possible. This will probably be a good 5 minutes or so. Okay, after a minute or so here, and with nothing else to do but think, I've decided I'm going to add another ½ tablespoon to this, just because I do have 200 grams extra volume just based on the peppers and the garlic. So let's add it. So that'll give us a total of 3 tablespoons of that salt. There, so after 7 minutes or so, you can see here, we're definitely getting some brine, liquids coming out. I find this red cabbage is a little bit firmer, so I am probably going to mix up a little extra brine once I get all of this into the fermentation vessel. So let's get that ready. So I have a 1 gallon fermentation jar here, and this actually just comes with a nice plastic lid that I can kind of slightly screw on. I've got this sanitized. I use Star San sanitizer, which I like to keep just in a handy little spray bottle. I use this in my home brewing and kombucha brewing all the time, so might as well use that, starting off with a nice sanitized jar. I've also used that to sanitize this jar filler, and now we're going to add hopefully all of the sauerkraut. Now that I got near the top, I'm just going to compress this, squish it all down as much as I can. Oh yeah, lots of liquid in there. That's really nice. I'm using this jar filler just to try to keep the top part of the inside of the glass jar here clean and free of cabbage and stuff as much as possible. I'll probably fail horribly in that. So looking at this, there is a decent amount of liquid in here, and if I squash this down all the way, it will get below that brine line. However, just because I know it's going to kind of fluff up a little bit here once it starts to ferment, I am going to add some brine. So let's make that. So for the brine, I want a 2% brine solution. The way to do that is just taking my pickling salt, and I'm going to add 4 grams of that. Doing this by weight, it's the easiest way to do it. 4 grams. And then I'm going to top this up here to 200 grams total. And I'm doing this in a pot just so I can heat it up a little bit to help that salt dissolve quickly. So dissolving that really only took about 30 seconds just on high heat here, and shimmying this around just to make sure it got into solution. Because it's not a super strong saline solution, it didn't take too terribly long. I'm just going to pour it all in here. Like that. Now that that brine is in there, and I should have mentioned that that was filtered water that I used in order to make that brine, I'm just going to go ahead and add probably just this one. This is like a half leaf that I cut off there. I'm going to just try to tuck this in. I'll actually probably put it in this direction here. Tucking it in. This is going to help push down the rest of the cabbage that we're really wanting to be the sauerkraut. And then I just want to add a weight to it just for a little added extra measure. And I have sanitized this. You can see the foam on there from the Star San. And this is just a nice glass weight. Again, available online. I like these because they're not porous or anything like that. They're not going to hang on to any sort of nasty bacteria or anything like that. Easy to sanitize. And just popping it into there. I can now get this lid on, and I'm not going to screw it on all the way because this will be producing carbon dioxide, so I am leaving it a little off like that so that gas can be expelled during the fermentation process. So now we're ready to ferment. I have this in my kitchen, which is at 70 Fahrenheit, which is right in the middle of that 65 to 75 Fahrenheit range for fermentation. I do have this jar on a tray here just in case it winds up getting vigorous enough that it rises up and some of the liquid tries to leak out. Hopefully that doesn't happen though, but either way that will protect that. You can see I have this sitting right next to my crazy looking SCOBY in the kombucha here. Now this will probably take at least a week, maybe closer to 2 to ferment. We'll just kind of check on it once fermentation kicks off and keep tasting and wait and see when it tastes the way that we want. 24 hours later, we are actively fermenting. You can see that that level of the liquid and everything has pushed up here. And you can see that there's some air pockets and whatnot going on here. And that's where some carbon dioxide action is going on. It smells nice and garlicky in this chamber, this cabinet, which is awesome. So there's a lot of wiggle room on how long to let this ferment. I actually let this go 2 weeks here. All fermentation has essentially died down, and I'm going to go ahead and get it into the fridge. All right, now that I've let this chill down a little bit here, I'm super excited. Let's give it a taste. So look at that beautiful color. This is like a vibrant sort of really hot pink indigo sort of thing, really in that pink and purple kind of combo. We've got some of those nice red Thai chilies in there. Ooh, smells like nice, earthy, tangy. First off, I love the crunch of this fermented sauerkraut. So much better than anything store-bought that you get that's processed and heat treated like that, because it just becomes like flaccid and nasty. Really nice and crunchy. You got to hear that crunch. Crunch test. Delightful. Lots of garlic in here, and just enough of that Thai chili heat is coming through. This is an absolutely amazing blend of flavors here. We've got the garlic, we've got the heat, we've got the earthy cabbage, that nice tang coming out of the lactic fermentation there. Absolutely delightful. I cannot wait to have this on sausages. This would be great with eggs. I think the possibilities are quite limitless here, so I'm looking forward to giving that a whirl. So you should as well, and until next time, keep your sauerkraut at 11.